My name's Alyssa.
And I'm Emilie. And you're listening to Slash and Slay, a horror podcast. I'm so excited.
Are you?
I'm so excited to talk about our topic today.
Yes. I think this has been a long time coming.
I
talking
think
about this.
Our listeners are on the edge of their seats for this one. Am I right?
They really want to know our thoughts about this particular person that we're going to talk about today.
Any guesses? Yell it out.
Hello.
Nope, you're wrong.
I didn't hear anything. No one knows.
Wrong.
This person's a lot more famous than I thought they were.
I think so too. We were actually, I was watching Good Mythical Morning, as I do every morning.
Shout out to Rhett and Link. I know you're watching right now.
I was watching them and they were like, oh yeah, we know about this person. I was like,
yeah,
they know. And I was in the same room with them. So kind of I was in the same room with Rhett and Link.
Yeah, kind of. I was once.
So jealous.
Anyways, so if you didn't know by the title,
we love Good Mythical Morning.
That's what this episode is about. We are talking about Grady Hendrix, who is a American horror author.
Yes, he used to be a journalist, I just found out, which is interesting.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't really write like a journalist, I would think.
Not really.
But I thought it was interesting. He is a screenwriter as well. I've never seen any of his screenwriting things. I don't know did he screenwrite My Best Friend's Exorcism? I guess.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. He's known for his novel HORRORSTOR, which got him on the map kind of 2014. He was actually one of the founders of the New York Asian Film Festival, which is interesting too. Didn't know about that. He also won the Stoker Award for Paperbacks from Hell, which is...
Isn't that like a... It's like a
coffee table book with all his like pictures from horror books from the 80s, 70s, and when they kind of all had that same kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And I've been wanting that one for a while. That book I think would be really cool to have. But he just like posts that on Instagram like every single day.
Right.
So I'm like, I can just go on his Instagram.
Go look at it.
Yeah, I can just go look on his Instagram.
Yeah.
But as you know, we did go and to an event.
Yes, we did go try to meet him. I mean, we did go. I just gave it away. Spoiler alert. We did go to an event that he was hosting in here near where we live.
Yes.
And
let's tell you.
And it there were some hijinks involved.
We'll tell you about them
but
more.
Stay tuned for that.
But
we'll get to it.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But the point of this episode is to go through all the books that we've read by him and just kind of talk about them, review them.
Yeah.
Give us a slash, give us a slay, the usual. I think we've almost read all of them.
Yes, we've both read all but one. Emily tried. I tried actually to read. Was that his very first one, or was that one after HORRORSTOR?
I think that was after.
Okay, it was like a second.
It's We Sold Our Soul.
Yes,
which is like a rock and roll, satanic panic, metal type thing.
Which he likes to do satanic panic a lot.
He does, which I guess him growing up in that.
Yes, he really does kind of do a lot of 80s, sort of 80s, 70s, 60s vibes.
Yes,
which I really like because I like those eras.
They say write what you know, and a lot of his books are set in. Where is it? South Carolina?
Yeah.
No, Charleston. Yeah, South Carolina. Charleston.
Yeah.
South Carolina. A lot of them have reference to that or something like that. So, I think that's really helpful. He grew up there, South Carolina, obviously, and so there's that. There's 80s, 70s vibes, also stuff that he knows, what he grew up in, and I don't know. There's like an interwoven type feeling I get with all his novels. It's all
very the same style. He keeps to. It's a very like him style, which I think is really great for an author and for a horror author to have just sort of the same like overall feel.
It's like you know what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Or bad.
Yeah. For the most part, you know what you're gonna get. I do really enjoy his writing for the most part. as a style of writing.
Yeah.
I think it's very like digestible and immersive. I can always like see these books being very cinematic in a way, and I think his background helps sense, too.
Yeah, being a screenwriter.
Yeah, so that's something that I really do enjoy about reading his novels and stuff. I had like heard about him for a while, but I wasn't really reading horror, and I didn't really know any like popular horror authors that are releasing books like right now. I think he was really my first
introduction into
into
into like it's like modern horror. I would say it's modern horror, even though it does delve into the past.
Yes,
but it is modern horror. Obviously.
I do really like how it's like, you can kind of say they're all horror comedies in a way, because they're a little goofy, little schlocky, fun, but still there are some like very serious topics that it can deal with too, like grief, a lot of grief. They talk about grief a lot, kind of finding yourself, a lot of coming of age type things. I don't know, I think his books would be good for dipping your toe into modern horror for sure too. I think everybody should give at least one of them a try. But we're here to tell you which ones
we read and what we thought about them.
Yeah.
So we're just going to list which ones we've read and what we're going to talk about today. So that would be HORRORSTOR, My Best Friend's Exorcism, The Final Girl Support Group, The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, and How to Sell a Haunted House. The one we are not mentioning is, well, we're mentioning it, but we're not talking about it, is We Sold Our Soul.
Yes. And I'll tell you my initial thoughts. I'm listening to it on audiobook, and I'm like 2 hours in, maybe. I'll finish it because I got it for free.
Yeah. I started it. I read the first page and said,
we're just not like metal music girls. If you can't tell, we don't listen to a lot of metal. We don't listen to
metal. We love Taylor Swift.
We love Taylor Swift. Yeah. So it's just not our thing, but we'll see. We'll talk about it. Let's talk about HORRORSTOR first.
Okay, that was his first novel.
It came out September 13th, 2014, which I think it's so weird when I find out books like came out that long ago, when I'm like, I had no idea.
It doesn't, I didn't know. The first book I ever noticed of his was The Final Girl Support Group.
I think mine was Southern Book Club, because he had an event at the same place that we went to event. So we had another event, and I was like, oh, cool, an author's coming. And I was like, I have no idea what this is. Yeah. But yeah, so apparently he's been writing since 2014. I'll read a short synopsis.
Sure.
So it actually is pretty cool because it looks like a catalog, like a coffee table book. So it looks like a IKEA knockoff catalog book, and there's like pictures and little like instructions, and the instructions progressively get creepier. But
so it's all very normal, and then
it's very interesting. So something strange is happening at the Orsk Furniture Superstore in Cleveland, Ohio. Every morning, employees arrive to find broken
what is it? It's not Swedish because it's
Swedish.
Is it Swedish still? I thought it was like,
it's still Swedish. A Swedish name bookshelf, Kjerging bookshelves, shattering glands, water goblets, and smash
Lyra pit.
Yeah, that's it. Wardrobes. Sales are down. Security cameras reveal nothing, and store managers are panicking. To unravel the mystery, 3 employees volunteer to work a 9-hour dusk till dawn shift. In the dead of the night, they'll patrol the empty showroom floor, investigate strange sights and sounds, and encounter horror that defy the imagination. Really cool concept.
Yeah, it really is. It was a really cool concept.
I was really excited for this one.
Yes, I was too. This was read like way after I had read the other ones.
Yeah, so, we read this like what, last month? 2 months ago?
Yeah, not very long ago.
Right
before the release of How to Sell a Haunted House.
Yes, so in January. We read it. I actually did audiobook with this one. Did you do audiobook?
No, I read it.
Okay. I was so confused the whole time. And you were confused, right?
I was, yes.
Okay, that validated me. Because I was like, maybe I just wasn't listening.
No, I was confused. And in the obviously in the book, there's like pages, like each kind of part is represented by a different like piece of furniture, or whatever, which is really cool. And like I said, it's very cool that it he describes it like an IKEA pretty much, and they even mention IKEA.
I do like how they did that. Yeah.
Not trying to like say that, oh, this is IKEA, but it's like the competition of IKEA, which I did like.
Yeah, I did like that too, that they were like, we're a ripoff of IKEA, and they just straight up said it. And you're like, yeah, cool, love that. The thing that I have a problem with is I was not rooting for anybody. I did not care about anybody. Like, the main character was so low stakes. She was just a girl. She's like, kind of wow. Yeah, she was like, I was like, just work. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, she didn't want to do her job. She didn't want to. She didn't have any ambition, which is fine. But like, I'm not gonna mope around and make everybody's problem. Like, I feel the same way. But yeah, I'm not gonna make everyone's problem. I also their volunteer shift that they did, that's illegal.
Right. Yeah.
That made me mad too. I was like, you cannot do that.
It was like right after their other shift. Like, it was like, let's just continue.
And the manager was literally paying them from his own pocket.
Yeah. To find out squatters. To find out what, like, why there was stuff happening in the store overnight. They would come in the next morning, and there would be like poop on the thing, and there was like just like all sorts of stuff happening. So they wanted to stay overnight and investigate what was going on. And I didn't understand, like, the manager, they're trying to make him like super unlikable and super just like the strict guy, but then
he kind of was the only one that knew what was going on and like had a game plan. He kind of reminded me of Fantastic Land, the manager in Fantastic Land, who didn't know, like, he was like, yeah, everybody respects me, and then like obviously not.
Yeah.
They end up like going around the showroom, and things start getting a little weird, which I liked at first. Like, I was like, oh, it's just like, you're like wondering, what are they gonna find? They're like, I get lost, and you're like, me too. In IKEA, I get lost too if you don't follow the exact path. And they're like, we're literally following it, and we're looking at ourselves in the camera. We're standing here, but we're actually here, and it just starts getting a little freaky. And they find these two other employees that had snuck in, and they want to make a paranormal show for some reason.
It kind of mixed. Like, kind of, I don't know. I feel like it kind of mixed genres a little bit. I don't know. Like,
I don't know what it was trying to do at all, to be honest. It didn't scare me.
No.
It was a little boring.
And there was. And there was like, the villain was not clearly defined. It was like, it's maybe a ghost.
It's maybe a ghost. It's maybe ancient burial ground demons.
This place was like a prison once.
Oh, right.
And so it was this prison guard and there are all these souls of prisoners that were trying to keep them there, but it didn't fit. It didn't fit with like the furniture theme. I guess
it's supposed to be like commentary on, like, you know, working for large corporations and stuff like that, which I get, but don't make it like
it was. I don't know.
It was very, very confusing, and the final fight, I have no idea what happened. I could not tell you.
I don't understand. They kept getting captured and then tortured and then like let go.
And then they were stuck in something. And there was water. And I was like, where'd the water come from? And how'd they get stuck? And
then the other people just kind of kept disappearing. And so two of the characters make it out. And then there's this whole like media hubbub of like that there was a flood, and that's kind of how they pass it off. And then the store gets turned into like a different kind of store, like a baby store.
Yeah.
And then the two characters want to go back in to try and save the other people. But I was like, why?
Yeah, I was like, okay.
There wasn't a strong enough bond that happened. Because they really like...
They all hated each other.
They didn't like each other. And they never like reconciled that. It was just like, we're going to have a seance in here and do this show. And they all got split up. And they were all each on their own like journey, and they never really worked together.
Or anything. No.
Why? I mean, not to be like, I don't want to save anyone, but like, why would you want to go back in there? I didn't get it.
That's I have a little love-hate with the ending of a lot of his books is he'll take you forward a bit, and you're like, oh, like you kind of see their lives afterwards, and you're like, oh, they kind of just like stayed the same.
Yeah.
You know, which is like, you don't really get to see that in like horror
True.
movies and stuff. You see them initially and they have like this, you know, their blood's pumping and they're like, oh my gosh, you know, my life's changed. And then he takes you a few years forward.
And it's like they're kind of back to what they were doing before, which is kind of, I think, more realistic.
Oh yeah,
than this.
But it just makes me mad.
Big change.
Like, just change, you know, and it's just not what most people would probably do. But yeah, I didn't even really like the ending of this one just because of that.
It took me a while to finish it. Yeah. I think it took me like a week to finish it.
And it's really short.
Yeah, it's not that long.
I think it was like 4 hours.
I just kept kind of putting it off.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm sorry, but it was a slash.
It's a slash for me as well. And when we say slash,
we mean
don't.
We mean we don't recommend.
Yeah. We don't recommend.
It's an unrecommend.
An unrecommend. A slash. But sometimes like a movie can be a slash, but it's like we like it, but it's like scary. You know what I mean?
Yes. So that's two meanings. But in
you
this
just
case,
have to guess which one I'm talking about.
In this case,
this one
we don't recommend
HORRORSTOR. But I feel bad for saying that because he tried. I hate hating on things.
Hey, it got him on the map.
Okay.
Right? It got him in the door to write his others. So it's fine.
Okay. It's fine.
He's not listening to this.
What if he does?
Okay.
If he does,
hi.
I'll be like, can you please? Wait, no, we're going to say it later.
No, I don't
know. No spoilers.
Yes. Moving on to the next book, which is my best friend's Exorcism. I feel like, okay, let me tell you when it was released. May 17th, 2016. We've kind of run this book.
We've beat
the story into the ground. So don't worry. If you've listened to our previous conversations about this, we'll make it this quick.
Yes.
But here is a synopsis for those of you who don't know. The year is 1988. High school sophomores Abby and Gretchen have been best friends since 4th grade. But after an evening of skinny dipping goes disastrously wrong, Gretchen begins to act different. She's moody, she's irritable, and bizarre incidents keep happening whenever she's nearby. Abby's investigation leads her to something startling. And by the time their story reaches its terrifying conclusion, the fate of Abby and Gretchen will be determined by a single question. Is their friendship powerful enough to beat the devil?
Ooh. Yeah, we've talked about this one a lot.
Yeah, we did a whole episode on this. Episode 2. If you haven't listened, go listen.
That. We reviewed the book and we talked about the movie. We kind of just did book versus movie.
Which was his first movie thing to be made into a movie.
Yes,
book
first thing.
First thing,
book movie to be made into a movie. This was the second book of his that I read, I think. I read the first one and then I read this one.
Yeah, I think this was my second book as well.
We like it.
I love the 80s references. We love the friendship dynamics. And I just think it's like in the book, it's a really good ensemble of characters.
Yes.
There's stuff, that we don't like and things that fell short, but overall, for me, it's a slay.
It was a really fun time. I think the characters you like, they're likable. Like you root for them. Most every character you root for them in some way. And it's a little slow at the beginning, but once you get into it, it's like very fast paced and it's like gives that, like, they always compare it Jennifer's Body meets Mean Girls kind of.
Yeah.
So it's that same vibe.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely a slay. I like it. I've recommended it to several people. Now the movie, we don't. That one's a slash.
That's a slash all the way.
A huge slash.
Back to where that little goblin came from.
Bad slash. Okay, let's move on to one that we haven't really talked about too much, which is surprising because we really enjoyed this one. And that is the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. This one came out April 7th, 2020, which was the start of quarantine. Yeah. And that's how I remember how I first heard about Grady Hendrix was the bookstore where I used to live was having an event, and it was a virtual event with him. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, I don't know anything about this, but the cover's really pretty. And that's kind of all I knew about it. And then I haven't read it until last year. Anyway, I will give a short synopsis.
Go for it.
Patricia Campbell's life has never felt smaller. Her husband is a workaholic. Her teenage kids have their own lives. Her senile mother-in-law needs constant care, and she's always a step behind on her endless to-do list. The only thing keeping her sane is her book club, a close-knit group of Charleston women united by their love for true crime. At these meetings, there is likely to talk about the Manson family as they are about their own families. One evening after book club, Patricia is viciously attacked by an elderly neighbor, bringing the neighbor's handsome nephew, James Harris, into her life. James is well-traveled and well-read, and he makes Patricia feel things she hasn't felt in years. But when children on the other side of town go missing, their deaths written off by local police, Patricia has reason to believe James Harris is more of a Bundy than a Brad Pitt. The real problem? James is a monster of a different kind, and Patricia has already invited him in. Little by little, James will insulate himself into Patricia's life and try to take everything she took for granted, including the book club. But she won't surrender without a fight in this blood-soaked tale of neighborly kindness gone wrong. And it is often referred to or compared to Steel Magnolias meets Dracula, which I think that hits the nail on.
It is perfect.
How do you say it?
It's the nail on the head.
That's how you say it?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. It's the nail on the head.
It's the nail on the head.
That makes sense, but it sounds weird to me. Okay, it's the nail on the head. This book is like full.
Oh, yes.
Full of so much.
This book is...
Are you gonna cry?
Yeah.
I love this book.
This book is like in my top of like horror books.
I agree.
Because it really
is in your top.
I agree.
It's also in my top. That's what I'm trying to say.
I was told to read this by someone who will not be named.
Bleep it anyway.
And he just said read it, and so I just like got it and I read it, and it changed my life. No, not really.
It did change a lot of my like reading, like outlook on reading and horror. Because at the end of the day, horror especially is a commentary and a reflection of our society at the time. And this one, especially, this is like Southern from the perspective of a housewife where they are expected to shut up and have the perfect house, take care of the children, do everything, and take care of everything.
Be
and
seen and not heard.
Yeah, and have no personality, and that's it. And this lady is like giving her all for this, for her family, for her lifestyle, her of her community, everything. And she's just overwhelmed. And I really like how it starts off with she's going to like the book club and they're reading some pretentious book and she's like, she has to present on it, and she's like, she did not read it at all, and she's like listing all this stuff that she had to do, and
she
you're
just like looked up stuff about it, and like that was it. And they call her out on it. One of the ladies calls her out.
And then that's when they're like, you know what, let's just do our own book club, and they do trashy true crime, and all the men are like, ew, like I can't believe it.
They like make fun of them for it and stuff. The men in this are all
horrible.
Terrible. There's not a single character, character that's redeemable.
No, they all suck.
Even the son, even the little
the son is horrible.
6-year-old kid.
Yeah,
or 10, however old he was.
Horrible. Actually, that reminded me that this book takes place over a long time.
Oh yeah,
like years and years.
Yeah.
Because at the very beginning, she's establishing she's really busy, a mom of young kids. They go to the book club, and then it fast forwards, and they are really good friends. They have this book club that's been going on for years now, and all their husbands are friends now, and they've established their friendship. And then they meet every week, and she's just like, I'm happy with that. And then, like the synopsis says, something goes a little weird when James Harris comes. And if I remember correctly, that spans quite a while too, of him being there.
Yes. And him kind of infiltrating himself into their lives with the husband and her.
Yes.
And there is like some like sexual tension that's happening. And as a reader, you're even like, I mean, obviously he's going to end up being the villain, but at the same time, he's showing her this attention and you feel bad for her, and her husband's awful. So you're like, okay, like, get it.
Yeah.
A little bit.
I think it's so interesting how they present him as like a charismatic serial killer. And you're like, girl, how many times have you read Helter Skelter or like The Monster Beside Me? You should know a serial killer when you see one. Right. He like acts like that, and he like wins her trust and then asks for money. Like that is so, and like asks for it in a secret bank account. And that is so serial. And she's just like, oh, he needs help. Yeah. Because he's so charismatic and attractive.
But she's also the first one to realize that something is awry with this man.
Yes.
And
oh my gosh, the amount of gaslighting. And I hate books when they don't believe the main character,
because you're like,
oh my gosh, can you not understand?
So
can you
angry.
Not see?
And this did make me angry, but it wasn't in like,
it worked though.
Yeah, it wasn't in the way that I'm like, I want to throw this book across the room.
And it was because I love her so much that I wanted to.
She was actually a very likable character,
very likable,
and the other characters around her, even like the really like snooty like lady. I really liked her too.
Because he gave her like a backstory and meaning, and she wasn't just snooty just to be snooty, because he understands, like he gave all of these women a kind of stereotypical Southern
like characteristic,
which I guess he pulls from
his own
living
life
in Charleston. Something else interesting is this one was supposed to be a kind of spin-off from My Best Friend's Exorcism. Because he was like, I wanted to do one on the parents' perspective of something happening like that. Because it's around the same time. It's like a little bit before My Best Friend's Exorcism would happen.
Right, because and then it goes into like the early 2000s, I think, right?
Oh, so this one's a little after. That's what I meant.
Well, like it goes into, like it starts in like the 80s and then goes into the 2000s.
Yes. It's... I just wish I could be like, just read it. Like, just read it. It's so good. It just really is very good. It's very, very descriptive.
Yes.
That one part in the attic.
Yes. And honestly, it did scare me.
Yes.
And
I was scared.
It takes a lot for a book to scare me. And there were moments, it was just so visceral. It was so, the way he wrote, like the fear and like things happening that you can't control in your, like outside of your body, but you're trying to be quiet, like, because those things, like in movies when someone's trying to be quiet, or like when I'm playing or watching one of those video games, it's like if you have to be quiet, it's the scariest thing.
Yeah, it's actually hard. I think even with like the actual villain and the monster, when he was describing like the monster becoming a monster, I could actually like visualize that, which is sometimes difficult for me when people are like, oh, it grew a head or whatever. Not that happened, but I'm like, what? Like, what are you talking about? But it was very descriptive and again, very cinematic. I would love to see this as a movie.
Oh my gosh, or a TV show.
Who would be our dream cast?
Oh.
Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah, honestly, so good. Honestly, her as the main character, as Patricia,
and Brad Pitt,
or like, so I feel like someone a little like someone younger. Oh, I don't know.
Okay, the dad from Twilight.
As what?
That's James. When he was younger, maybe.
Maybe when he was
I just thinking of his blonde hair.
I can see him as a husband.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh. The husband.
Ugh, we hate the husband.
Again, this has a little time jump ending that is kinda not like, you know, she just kind of is like living her life. It changes. It's like kind of, it's not sad. It's not happy. It's just like, oh, this thing changed. I lived through this and I'm living through it. I'm going about my day, which I think is very interesting too. And good.
Yes.
I think it's good.
I think it's good. So obviously this book is a slay for me.
A slay
all the way.
Slay all day. I love this one. Also, can we just like,
the cover.
It's so pretty.
Yes.
It is so beautiful.
For our listeners, the cover is like, it's like, what's those, peaches, right?
It's like peaches.
It's like southern peaches.
Southern
with these
peaches.
like bite marks out of it with blood running down.
I love
it's
the
very
font.
Simple. Because like that's the only one, that just this one peach that has the blood in it.
Because there's one bad peach in the crop.
That's it.
Oh, you know what else? They comment on like the low income neighborhoods and black neighborhoods in like being completely ignored because the villain is actually targeted. The villain is taking from that family and they are freaking out. And then of course down the street is this white neighborhood and they are completely fine. They're just chilling literally with the villain.
Chilling with the
villain. And I think that was really interesting too. That's what I mean by this book is like packed with so much like reference and symbolism and
it actually
commentary.
Comes through.
Yes, it comes through.
And it doesn't come through in like a shove it in your face kind of way either, which I like.
Yes, it doesn't. Yeah, it comes through subtly, but also very effectively. Very good. Huge slay.
We recommend.
What was the next one?
All right, let's get into the next one, which is the Final Girls Support Group, which came out July 13th, 2021. Let me give a little synopsis. Lynette Tarkington is a real-life final girl who survived a massacre. For more than a decade, she's been meeting with 5 other final girls and their therapist in a support group for those who survived the unthinkable, working to put their lives back together. Then one woman misses a meeting and their worst fears are realized. Someone knows about the group and is determined to rip their lives apart again piece by piece. But the thing about Final Girls is that no matter how bad the odds, how dark the night, how sharp the knife, they will never, ever give up.
I audiobooked this one too.
I think I read this one. Okay. Did I? That's how much maybe I did. That's
I tried to shove this one before.
Yeah, we tried to We tried to get this one in before his newest one, How to Sell a Haunted House. What were your thoughts? Great concept.
Again, a great concept.
He really does have really good concepts.
I genuinely thought this was his first novel because I was like, this person's still finding their footing and writing.
Yeah, that's what I felt like too. I thought it was definitely earlier on.
Yes. I had no idea until today that it was 2021.
Yeah, same.
And
same, actually.
That makes it so much worse. The fact that it came after A Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, which is a little masterpiece. Yeah. And then
I definitely thought it was before. And
yes,
it really makes it worse that it's after.
It makes it so much worse.
Sorry, it just does.
It's definitely not what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like younger girls. And they're like, man, like we went through this.
Or like early 20s.
Yeah, early 20s. And that's younger.
Which is... Yes.
I'm my early 20s.
It is. I know. I didn't mean that it's not. Okay.
They're old in this.
They're in their 50s.
Yeah, they're old.
40s? Late 40s?
Old 50. Final girls. They're like really, really,
they're
really
like
old.
Decrepit.
I'm kidding. They're
Which
older.
I'm like fine with. And I think it could have, maybe because it came after Southern Book Club.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like he should have just gone back to younger.
Yeah.
But
I just realized has he ever written from the perspective of a man?
No. And he says, I think there's an interview where he says he doesn't.
He won't? Okay,
he
good
won't.
That's fine with me. Okay. I like it.
He says he doesn't like men, he likes women.
How interesting.
To women.
Okay.
So
anyway, what I thought it was going to be was like young girls getting together and they're really good friends because they went through this together. Mm-hmm. Like maybe they have different personalities and you can kind of tell which one is. It kind of reminds me of, there was this movie called Vicious Fun.
Mm-hmm.
Vicious Fun. And it was a support group for like horror characters. So it was like,
okay,
but it was like, knockoff. Like obviously there was the Michael Myers. Obviously there was the,
mm-hmm.
so on and so on. And they were all kind of like, they would like rub each other, but they would still.
They would rub each other.
Like, they'd rub each other the wrong way, but they were still friends. Yeah. And, they're like, oh yeah, we're killers.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was going to be like that. Like
something
they were
like
kind
that,
of friends.
Yeah.
They all didn't like each other.
Yeah.
They did not like each other at all.
I also feel like they didn't have any clear personality traits.
One of them was rich.
Yeah.
One of them was paranoid. One of them was in a wheelchair, and that was like their personality traits.
Right. And I feel like he did such a good job in Southern Book Club of having kind of archetypes, but also fleshing them out. And to me, there was neither of that here.
No.
Like I would have taken one or the other, but
it kind of felt like a fever dream because it went really fast, but also like
nothing happened.
Yeah.
What's happening?
It like it happened over a day, which forced it to go fast.
Yeah.
But the main character, I don't like her. Not redeemable. She's kind of a bad person.
Yeah, she's kind of horrible, and
she's kind of horrible.
I don't know if it sounds bad to say I don't really understand her paranoia.
No.
To the extreme that it is. Like some of the other girls seem to have okay, maybe that's like a conversation we shouldn't get into about like trauma and how it affects you. But to me,
it was very like you could tell she was like trying to be like Laurie Strode in Halloween.
Yeah.
What is it? Halloween Kills?
Mm-hmm.
Or Halloween. Whenever
yes,
she,
when she's in the cycle.
When she's like in her, the 2018, she's like, her own compound. I didn't ever see that one. Okay. Well, she's in like a compound.
Okay.
And it's like that. Like, you're like, girl, calm down. Like, chill. Which I guess maybe they shouldn't because they did come back, but whatever. Anyways. I didn't like her.
It didn't. Yeah. It didn't. I didn't like her at all either.
It was very confusing. The urgency was like very weak. It was there, but it was very weak.
Yeah.
Because it was like, why? Like, why are you doing this? She like made no logical decisions.
No.
Not one.
No. And but she prided herself on being such a logical person. No, I didn't like it. Also, like, I wish that they had kind of told each of the survivors, the final girls' stories a little bit more, because I was getting confused about what happened to who.
Yeah, me too.
Because they would really reference it in like movie reviews of like the movies that they made about these girls and interviews like that. And I was like, I don't understand what happened to her. It
was very media, like they were talking about how the media portrayed them and not like what happened, which is what was the interesting part to me.
I guess the kind of that commentary on that, which was probably the only interesting part. But I wanted to know what actually happened to each girl. I kind of wish that it didn't just focus on one character, that maybe it could have been multi POV.
Yes, I agree.
Which they did at the end. They brought in one of the girls as her point of view at the end. But it was like too late.
I didn't even realize that probably. I was probably like, what is going on?
That's probably why I got so confused.
Probably. Well, I was listening on audiobook and I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Probably
maybe that's why I was confused. But I don't know. The villain at the end, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Saw it coming in a way.
Yeah, it was one of those like really like the least person you would suspect.
Yeah.
Is actually it. But I was like, what's the point? Like, there didn't seem to be a point to me.
It was like a Scream reveal. Like a Scream movie. Where you're like, it was. All right. But it wasn't like they were trying to be fun. Yeah. It wasn't like they were trying to be fun. It was just very lackluster. Let me down.
But a lot of people really, really liked this book.
Really? I didn't look at reviews or anything.
Just from what I heard, I mean, it's a lot of people's first books that they read of him. I think this one like really put him on the map more than Southern Book Club, more than My Best Friend.
Really?
I really think it did.
Okay.
I think this is what it seemed to me. This was the first book I ever heard of by him.
Okay.
And I just remember because I'm on like writer Twitter, and I'm on specifically horror writer Twitter, so there was just like a lot of talk about this book and him and stuff at that time, and so like a lot of people really loved it, and teach their own, I guess.
Interesting. Now I feel bad. Maybe I should try.
I mean,
again.
It's okay. It's okay that we don't like it. I mean,
it made me feel better that you didn't either.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we personally slashed that one.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Sorry. Cool concept. Try again.
Yeah.
Try that one again.
Just try it. Just do another.
Yes. I guess it's time to get into the moment we've all been waiting for a long time.
For months and months and months.
And months.
It's been like 2 months.
Yeah. Aren't you on the edge of your seats? about how we went to an event that Grady Hendrix was at.
We did. So for the release of How to Sell a Haunted House, which came out January 17th of this year.
Yes.
I ordered it on Amazon personally.
I ordered it. Well, I got tagged actually in Instagram. Several people tagged me and were like, there's an event going on. And I saw that it was at my favorite bookstore of all time. And I was like, oh my gosh. And Grady Hendrix is going to be there. And you get to have your copy of How to Sell a Haunted House signed. So I was like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. So I called, I pre-ordered. I was like, Alyssa, we're going.
Mm-hmm.
Clear your schedule.
Amazon.
Yeah.
I'm going to Amazon that book. I
got
it.
And then I think the event was the 28th, if I remember correctly,
Honestly,
of January.
I can't remember.
So I didn't get my book until then, but yours came in before.
Mine came in like a week before, yeah.
Yeah. So the event was about 3 hours away, give or take, with stops. So we loaded up our car and we got there. We got there an hour early, actually.
Was it just an hour early? Or was it more than that?
It might have been more than that.
I can't remember.
About an hour, if not earlier, hour and a half early, so we could find parking, and we had to walk. So we got there, and I got my copy. You had your copy. And there was like not really that many people.
I mean, people,
there.
they had a whole display set up, and people were coming in to get their book. I mean, it was kind of like, I was like, okay, like, I think there'll be a decent amount of people, but not too many. Because I mean, come on, it's just like,
it's just Grady Hendrix.
It's just a horror author.
Just a horror author. Who cares? So we were like, yeah, let's go get coffee. Like, who cares? And so we go, and then when we come back, we're like, oh my God.
There were many people.
So many people. We were being like literally herded like sheep.
We got
to
in.
The slaughter.
We just like, we're like, okay, let's just get in this line. We didn't know.
We didn't know what the line was for.
I thought it had already. I kind of thought he was already in there, and they were just. It was getting ready to go do it. And we're like, all right, we're gonna get this taken care of.
Yeah.
And
so
get out of there.
There's no chairs. It's in an old not abandoned, obviously. No, it's in an old,
it's abandoned,
decrepit building. No
exits.
No exit.
There were no fire exits.
No.
If there had been a fire,
that would have been illegal. We would have died.
Yes, because we were right smack in the middle.
We were in the middle. We were
a lot of books. There were records.
Very crammed together. It was so hot. People were literally like taking their shoes off because it was so hot, which is gross, but they were.
We got there, like 30, 45 minutes before the event was supposed to start, like 7.
And we got in our little spot, and we waited and waited, and we're sweating, and it was horrible.
And they had told us, they said that we didn't know this before, that he was going to be doing like a presentation. He was going to be talking for a while and discussing before he did the signing. I didn't know that, at least. Maybe I kind of just took everything Emily said. So
I can't remember if they said that or not, but I think they did say that they were going to have like a little presentation, but I was like, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Or like a little Q&A. Fun.
Which
awesome.
would have been
great.
Terrific.
Would have been perfect.
But that's not what happened. So we waited 45 minutes. It was very hot. I thought I was going to pass out several times. It was just very crowded. Like we were towards like the middle, but I couldn't see anything.
People were dropping like flies sitting, and yeah, it was rough. I couldn't see the screen very well.
I could see a little bit because I'm taller.
Yeah, I could not see the screen. I couldn't see anything. He finally gets out there after about an hour waiting, 45 minutes of waiting, and he goes through this presentation for his book, How to Sell a Haunted House. Now,
I want to be kind.
Having since read this book, it makes the presentation worse.
Yes.
The presentation was just all like the history of haunted house stories, literally starting like before Charles Dickens, before what's it called? Christmas Carol, like before all of that, through time.
So in literature and like ones that were, rumored to be true, stuff like that.
Yes. And he would do like some funny ones. He was like really trying to be funny. And maybe if I had watched it and I wasn't sweating buckets, I would think it was funny.
If there were seats, maybe if I could see, maybe it would have been funny to me.
I was in pain. My feet were hurting. It was a little cringy.
He liked to talk about sexual ghosts a lot.
Yes, a lot. It's fun, sir. Funny.
It's fine.
Funny.
It just, I don't know. It
just didn't, especially since having read the book, which I know it says How to Sell a Haunted House is surprisingly not a lot about selling a house. So
it really isn't.
Or the history of haunted houses or the house being haunted in general. So I was very confused. I would have loved even if he talked about, which we'll get into later, like the history of puppeteering or something. If you wanted to give me a history lesson,
right. Give me a history about that, or give me like, even just talk about how you came up with the I don't know. For me, because I'm like a writer, so like that's kind of what I wanted, what I was expecting, and I guess not everyone would be interested in that. But I wanted to know like how he came up with this concept, how he got into writing, even stuff like that, just like a Q&A, or talk about how this book came to be. Instead, it was literally just about other people's books, other people's stories that they wrote.
And she really does like to do that on Instagram, like paperback.
Yeah, which is paperback, great. But whatever. So it had been like an hour and a half at this point that we'd been standing in this room,
and it was horribly stuffy. Like not even hot. It was just like hard to breathe. So stuffy. Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to be dramatic either. Like literally, it was so uncomfortable. So the presentation finally ends.
No, it doesn't. It didn't end.
It never ended? It's still going on right now?
It's still going on right now. No, it was
oh, I had to go to the bathroom. Left. I had to go.
It just kept going. It kept going, and I kept thinking, okay, this is going to be the like last one that he's going to talk about, and then we're going to move on. We're going to start the signing, or it's going to be over. And so Emily left to go to the bathroom. It kept, and then he started launching into another story. And I was like, I cannot do this anymore. So I dipped out, had to go around all these people. The people were like because there were people standing through the only exit. There were so many people. Oh, I guess there were two exits, but in the main exit, there were so many people standing on the little ramp to go down, and they looked so pissed that I was trying to get through. Like, let me out.
Yeah, I'm like, please let me out of here.
Yeah, it was awful.
Yeah.
So we got out and
met up with me.
Mm-hmm.
And then
we were walking. Well,
you want to see? Guys, we did not get to meet Grady Hendrix.
We did not meet. We did not stay.
Because we chickened out. No, not really.
I didn't chicken out.
We also had a 3-hour drive still back, and it was raining. Like, it was kind of raining.
It was already dark.
I saw the bottom half of his legs through the window when I went like this.
Mm-hmm. We went by, because this was maybe again another 15 minutes later after we'd met up, made our decision about what we were going to do, and we started to walk back to the car. We had to walk by the windows, and he was still talking. The same thing.
Yeah, I forgot we didn't stay till the end. Because they were like, okay, as soon as it's ending, we're going to take a 30-minute break, and then he'll start signing.
Then we'll start signing.
And I was like,
it's like, there's no way.
No. I actually reached out to some friends that I had that were at the event, too, that live in that area. And I was like, I do not know how y'all stayed. Like, I had to leave. I couldn't do it. And they're like, yeah, I got mine signed at 1 a.m. Like 1 a.m. And
it was like 3 hours that they waited in line. This was just waiting in line.
Yeah, because that could have been even more, because we left
at like 9 something.
Yeah, if not even before that. Like,
yeah, maybe even 8.
Maybe 8:30, 8. Yeah. Actually, I think it was 8, because the place I went to the restroom in closed at 8. And I was like, oh, can I use your restroom? But yeah, anyway. We didn't get to meet him. But we got our books.
We did. We got our books. It was a story to tell. The one thing I will say is I was actually very happy to think about the fact that a horror author was so well loved by like people, as an aspiring one myself.
Yes.
I mean, like,
I would sit for 3 I would stand for 3 hours in that room
just to get to meet me,
just to see you. And if you did a horrible presentation, I would say you did so good.
Thank you. I would never. Okay, I'm sorry.
I would never do that.
Never do a PowerPoint presentation.
I will give him my notes on his PowerPoint. I'll be like, let's lose that one.
Lose the. Like, I know you're a writer and I know you have a lot of words in your heart.
I just wanted to see what research he did for this book.
Yes.
Because there's no way he knows about this stuff.
Real estate, researching. I mean, obviously he told us about the research he did about haunted houses, but like he could have done one.
But why did he need that research?
Yeah. He could have done one. He could have given us one. He could have given us some research about real estate. He could have given us some research about puppets and puppeteering, because that was really the main thing. Not even that it was I don't know.
No, it's literally like not even. Okay. Anyway, let's get into how to sell a haunted house.
Let's get into the book. Do you want to read the synopsis?
When Louise finds out her parents have died, she dreads going home. She doesn't want to leave her daughter with her ex and fly to Charleston. She doesn't want to deal with her family home, stuffed to the rafters with the remnants of her father's academic career and her mother's lifelong obsession with puppets and dolls. She doesn't want to learn how to live with the two people who knew and loved her best in the world. Oh, live without the two people who knew and loved her best in the world. Most of all, she doesn't want to deal with her brother, Mark, who never left their hometown, gets fired from one job after another, and resents her success. Unfortunately, she'll need his help to get the house ready for sale, because it'll take more than some new paint on the walls and clearing out a lifetime of memories to get this place on the market. But some houses don't want to be sold, and their home has other plans for both of them. Ooh. We went into this one with very low expectations.
We put off reading it for what, like several weeks?
Yeah.
A month, maybe?
Yeah. And I finally was like, should we just read it?
Yeah.
I think I texted her and I was like, should we just read it? And she said, I just started it.
Yeah, I had just started it. I was like, all right, it's time.
It's time. Yeah, you literally said it's time.
It's time. We need to. We bought these books. Let's do it.
Yes. Where do I start?
I don't know.
Where do I start?
Well, I like how it started off with me, because this really is about a family and family dynamics. And so it immediately starts off with family dynamic when the main character, Louise, calls and tells her mom or her parents that she is pregnant. And she kind of talks about what she expected them to do. And they ended up completely like doing the opposite of what she expected. And it just immediately kind of shows the relationship without like really having to get even a whole scene with the parents. You immediately understand the relationship she has with her parents.
I think that was very effective because like I feel like I know the mom and dad very well, and they're not really, obviously, sorry, they die like right off the bat. And we get to obviously evolve with Louise and Mark, but I feel like I know the parents. I feel like I know the entire family, which is so cool, like the extended family and everything. And I think twisting something like grief into a horror comedy, he did it like perfectly. So Louise, goes back to Charleston in her childhood house with Mark and her family, and all of these old feelings come rushing back. And
the scene where she finds out that she gets the call from Mark that her parents have died. Oh my gosh. It got me. Like I was tearing up.
It's horrible.
It was picturing the call myself. Like it was taking me there. Which just, it really puts you into the book, into the story immediately.
And oh my gosh, right off that bat, from then, you hate Mark. You hate Mark.
Yeah.
You just are like, you can't even really hate him because you're just like, dude, come on.
He's the
worst. Get your life together. Please get your life together.
Him writing men just like.
Yeah, he's the worst. Literally the worst. But again, you see them evolve and you see their relationship from the beginning when it starts, and they just butt heads so much. You can tell Mark is kind of just in it for the money, and he wants to get his bag, and he wants to move on with his life.
He seems so cold about the whole thing. He seems so very like, it's whatever. Like,
but then they have the funeral.
Yeah, they have the funeral, and the funeral is like, and she like lets him plan it. Gives up, and
she tries to be like the bigger person after they had a fight, and she's like, you can plan the funeral. It's fine.
And he like invites all of his mom's puppet friends. It's just this like
a puppet convention,
crazy experience with all these puppets. Like, but I could picture it, and I could picture just being like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, but it was so sweet because like Louise was crying. She was like, this is exactly what they would have wanted. This is what mom and dad would have wanted. They would have wanted the puppets here and everything.
Yeah.
And they like finished it off with like Rainbow Connection at the end of the funeral or whatever.
The puppets singing it.
Yeah, like it's so funny.
It really is. Like, it's pretty ridiculous.
It's pretty ridiculous.
It's ridiculous, but it's not. And that's like,
actually
I love
scary.
how it really merges
grief
that too, with like the
grief.
reality of grief with this like kind of ridiculous situation that's happening.
Yeah, it's also a lot of sprinkled in like, oh, that's a little weird type things. Like when she first goes into the house, she's like, okay, this is exactly how it was left, but my mom left her purse.
Yeah, and there's like a hammer on the ground.
There's a hammer on the ground. His crutch is here.
Yeah, over, like
it's just a little off. And then she's like, I'm pretty sure I put that doll over here. You know, it's just little things that you can rationalize. And I definitely would. I'd be like, oh, she was in a hurry to leave. She forgot her purse or whatever. But you know, eventually you realize what's going on. Another thing that I loved about this was when they were going to sell the house and they got her cousin to come. It was her cousin, right?
Yeah.
And they were going to appraise the house. And they go through it, and Louisa's like, oh my gosh, it's like things are getting weird. And she's going to think that this house is horrible. She's not going to let us sell it. All these dolls are creepy, whatever. And the whole time she's like, oh, it's very nice bones, like beautiful if we did this, and blah, blah, blah. So at the end when she's like, okay, so like how much do you think we can get for it? She's like, well, you have a haunted house. Yeah. Like she just straight up says it. Yeah.
She's like, there's something off about this house, and every single person who comes in here is going to know something's off. So you got to fix that first and then like call me.
Yeah. And I'm like, I love that. Like we didn't have to go through the nobody believes me. My house is haunted.
My gosh, you're right.
Thank God.
I mean, Louise kind of had to, she annoyed me a little how she kept being like, no, like you literally saw these like squirrels attack you that were in this like taxidermy thing.
Yeah, she like taxidermy too.
And they literally attacked you, and they were not just rabid squirrels.
You literally have scratches on your stomach. Yeah. Like, yeah. She was a long time coming around to it.
But no one else had to be convinced, which usually it's the main character and everyone else has to be convinced. But I kind of like that it was just the main character that had to be convinced and everyone else already believed.
Yes, which I loved. I loved that. I thought that was hilarious. Just like we accept it. Like it's haunted. It's a haunted house. And you're like, awesome. But I guess it's kind of like her trauma that she does uncover later on too. Yeah. And it kind of takes that to uncover, like to fully believe what's going on and how crazy it all is. And that's very like horrible, like what happened and the trauma she has to remember and relive.
Yeah.
And then you uncover more family trauma, and
secrets.
And that happens like especially when people die, like they're like, nobody's here to keep the secrets.
No, it's like, this story is how like this one older person was gonna tell it. It doesn't matter what the truth was, this is how they're gonna tell it, and then that's the legacy that they pass down.
Yes.
And then it's never known.
And then it kind of comments on how keeping those secrets isn't always fair to the people that it affects. And in this case, they were keeping the secret of the death of a kid, and that kid ended up being the spirit of this haunted,
the main villain, which we haven't talked about, but that's Pumpkin. The little puppet, hand puppet clown like doll.
Oh my gosh, I can just imagine it.
I can too. And the way it uses
this actually brought
hands.
up my love. Like I had a puppet that I like was like I loved that puppet, and now I'm like, what happened to that puppet? Like I've never seen it again, and I'm scared. But
did you bury it in the backyard?
Probably. Yeah, Pumpkin would control the person,
and it also moved on its own too.
Yes. Very creepy.
Terrifying.
Pumpkin was creepy. And we got a lot of backstory with Pumpkin. Pumpkin is the main villain, the main kind of focus of the whole story too. And you almost are like, oh, Pumpkin just doesn't know. Like he just wants to be.
He
just wants to be loved.
I know, it is kind of, it's like he is a villain and he's evil and he's awful and he's gross, but really like he's just like a little good. I mean, he has the like personality of a little kid. I don't want to give anything away.
Oh, I did. Oh, we'll have to cut that.
Oh well, it's fine. It's fine. It was also very similar to the Southern Book Club. Very visceral things happen. AKA a needle in the eye.
Oh my gosh, when that happened,
that was.
She was like, I need to go to the hospital.
I had to read it twice. I was like,
Me too.
Did she just get a needle shoved into her eyeball?
Because I was like, there's no way she's still functioning.
I was like, my shoulders were up to my ears. I was like, I can't.
And they just went to Waffle House.
I hate stuff with eyes.
Yeah,
I hate it.
And they just went to Waffle House. Like no big deal.
And her eyes like leaking.
Like oh my gosh, horrible.
Ew, it was awful.
Yes, very visceral.
But good.
Very visceral. I just like how a lot of this just like hinges on imagination too, and like the joy of childhood playing, and how that follows you into adulthood in some way. Sometimes it can haunt you, sometimes it can help you, and I think that was also beautiful too. And how she's a mother and she, you know, just wanted to protect her kid at the end of the day.
And there was kind of like almost like each section is divided into the different stages of grief. Yes. Which was very cool. Yeah. And so it was almost like, it wasn't like, it was a little bit over halfway, where it felt like a different book again. Yeah. Which was cool. I actually really liked. Sometimes I don't like that, and I really liked it. Yeah, I agree. I slayed this book. I slayed this book too. Slay. I was very happy. I was pleasantly surprised. Yeah, me too. I was like, I hate that. I love it so much because I wish it was signed. But oh well. Maybe I wasn't gonna stay. Day. Maybe next time I'll like bring my personal fan. Yeah, we'll have to be bring more our prepared. Comfy shoes. Prepared. Get a hotel. Yeah. And know that like this guy's popular. We're gonna be waiting. And now he's gonna be even more popular. I know, because he's gonna have TV shows and stuff. TV shows and movies. Really? I think Final Girls is supposed to be a TV show. Maybe it'll be a better TV show. Maybe I'll like it. Interesting. Yeah. We'll have to watch that and review it when it comes out. Yeah, we will. Maybe. I love that. Well, all right. All right. Well, that was our review of Grady Hendrix and his books, and our thoughts on them. To recap, read Southern Book Club. Read How to Sell a Haunted House. Read My Best Friend's Exorcism. Read the others if you want. They're fun. They're okay. If you want to read his whole bookography, is that what it's called? I don't know. Oh, if you want to read all his works. Collection, his works. Yeah, sure. It wouldn't be hard to catch up. Yeah. Before he releases another one. I go for it. Hopefully soon. Yeah, I will. I'll look forward to his next book. Yes. So I'll read all of them. Yes. Me too. And unfortunately, we didn't get to meet him, but we'll try again. And he seems like a nice guy. So. Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. Well, thank you guys so much for watching and listening. Watching and listening to this podcast. Episode 2 of season 2. How exciting. Very exciting. You can follow us on Instagram at slashandslaypod, on TikTok at slashandslaypod. And now you can subscribe to our YouTube at slashandslaypod. So subscribe to us, follow us, talk to us, all the things. Tell us what you thought of his books. Maybe if you liked one of them that we didn't, vice versa. Yeah, we'll argue with you about it. I probably won't argue very hard because I'm very easy to convince. So maybe by next week, Final Girls will be my favorite book ever. If you convince me. If you can convince Emily. I love that book. Won't take much. Can't even tell you who the main character's name is. Lynette. That just popped in my head. Good for you. Thank you. You remembered. I'm smart. All right, guys.
Stay tuned next week.
Love you.
For something new.
Bye.
Bye.